The most famous Christmas carol in the world to put us in the perfect mood for today's show. With that, a warm welcome to Euromaxx, where we have a lot more festive topics this time around. The traditional food that people in France enjoy during the holiday season. And every year, hundreds of Santas join in a charity race in Brighton, England. But first, we dive into the 19th century with British author Charles Dickens and his book, A Christmas Carol. As you might know, the story is about an old miser who changes his ways and becomes a warm-hearted and generous man thanks to the spirit of Christmas. It has been filmed many times, but once a year, it actually comes to life in the Dutch town of Deventer, when the residents get together to reenact Dickens' iconic novel.
Merry Christmas.
They all look like something out of a Charles Dickens novel. Farmers, beggars, tradesmen, well-to-do citizens. And they're all here in Deventer for a pre-Christmas journey back to the 19th century.
I'm a fan of Christmas. Yeah, I like it a lot.
It's nice because of the neighborhood is also like an oldish style, so it matches really well. And I think that's why many people come here, because if you do this in a newly built neighborhood, it won't work.
Very nice to see the well-dressed people. So it's very nice to be here.
The Van Gool family is making final preparations. 7-year-old Frederica's cap is a bit tight, but it'll have to do. The Van Gools have been taking part in the festival ever since they set up home in the old town. They get their costumes from a central wardrobe. Everything has to look authentic.
We get different ones every year. Yeah. You just sign up to join as a neighbor, and then they give you different costumes. So that's really nice. Every year you're a totally new character.
Do you like your costume?
Vind je het leuk? Yeah. Nothing that reminds of this century. So same with the shoes actually. You cannot have sneakers or anything.
And no watch. Not like that.
The rules are strict. Mobile phones are banned, so all that's left to do is to go for a stroll and see what's going on in town, just like people used to do. The time traveling doesn't stop at the historical clothes. The 19th century, in all its many aspects, is reenacted here in Deventer. Then, as now, nobody likes to see children begging. But everybody likes tea time in elegant surroundings. Jan Terweme has transformed his living room into a period parlor.
The silver is from 1850, 1852. The forks, knives, things like that. It's a different world, totally different. You can be another one outside yourself, so it's very nice to do. That's the kick we get for the clothes we wear and things we do.
Emmy Strick always wanted to bring Charles Dickens' A Christmas Carol to life. She founded the Dickens Festival in 1990. Her father was a fan of Dickens and England. Emmy followed in his footsteps and made her dream come true.
I just began with the shops, and then I invited them here and I showed them a movie, of course, The Christmas Carol. And I said, we are going to do that. And then that's the most important thing, that the people, not only the shops did it, but also the people who lived here.
A Christmas Carol tells the story of the wondrous transformation of Ebenezer Scrooge from a miser to a model of generosity. Luc van Voorst has played the grumpy Christmas hater for 25 years now.
But I think it's the last time I used it.
I liked it because it's nice to have a bad character, to find in yourself bad things.
The Dickens Festival in Deventer is a nostalgic tribute to the power of Christmas through the ages.
Now, what do a luxury department store and a nightclub have in common? You might say nothing much, but here in Berlin, they do share something, namely their architects. The Carhartt duo designed the legendary Berlin club Berghain, and now they have put their stamp on the famous KaDeWe department store, or at least one floor of it.
This couple haven't come to this Berlin luxury department store to enjoy the delicacies. They've given the candy section a new contemporary look. Just before the grand reopening, the couple give the new counters and shelves one last critical inspection.
Of course, you can sense the energy in the people stocking the shelves and opening the section for business. In a few hours, the curtain goes up. It's like a theater or a movie premiere.
The Kaufhaus des Westens, known as KaDeWe for short, opened in 1907 and became a Berlin institution. Its gourmet food section is legendary. At first, the combination of specialty food shopping and dining was unheard of. Today it's a hit, and not just with Berliners. Studio Carhartt remodeled a part of the KaDeWe's 6th floor in 2018. The architects made sure everyone, from tradition-minded champagne drinkers to adventurous foodies, feels comfortable here.
The people at KaDeWe spurred us on. They said, do something people will notice, something we've never seen before.
The most famous project in Carhartt's portfolio so far is Berlin's legendary techno club Berghain. The architects had to convert a former heat and power plant into a club and design the interior. But cameras are not allowed inside Berghain, so no images are available.
We actually tried to avoid design. That may sound a bit silly, but in this case, we really didn't want to touch the building's original architecture any more than necessary. It's big, so we had lots of surface area to work with. You can find seating all over. The people who go there should be able to enjoy it and still be surprised. And the rule there is what happens inside Berghain stays inside Berghain.
Thomas Karsten and Alexandra Erhardt are also a team in their private lives. They got the name of their studio Carhartt by abbreviating and combining their surnames. Both love to experiment.
We've collected a really big store of materials here. It always depends on the project, but we start out by putting together an array of materials.
They may have gained a reputation as club architects, but the couple also designs apartments. Medical practices, such as this dentist's office. And restaurants, like this burger bar. The two architects are willing to take on just about any challenge.
It's great that there's such a variety. To just limit ourselves to clubs would be too narrow.
The duo has 8 regular employees. A current major contract is for the interior of Sony Music's new Berlin headquarters. And they feel every bit as much at home remodeling an iconic department store.
We're big KaDeWe fans. We've been going to the store for years, and we knew right away what had to be done and how we'd go about it.
A few days later, they're back in the gourmet department. The candy section is finished. The architects make sure everything's in working order. Fine materials, organically contoured surfaces. It's playful and airy. And it all comes together into a harmonious entity. They're both highly satisfied.
I'm glad to see something worked out well that we planned out at the drawing board. It's always very theoretical. And now we can see that not only does it work in practice, but that the customers like it too.
Alexandra Erhardt and Thomas Karsten would like to do some browsing here themselves, but sadly time doesn't permit. so they make do with a little treat as a reward before heading back to work.
During the Christmas season, some culinary classics are an absolute must. However, here in Europe, people in each country enjoy very different treats. We have already shown you some of these specialties in our Euromaxx series, Traditional Christmas Fare. And in today's episode, we find out what the French eat during the holiday season.
The main course is stuffed capon with potatoes and sweet chestnuts. And for dessert, bûche de Noël, a sweet Christmas tree log. Traditional Christmas treats in France. The Le Chapon Fin in Bordeaux, southwestern France, is actually named after its specialty, capon. The restaurant can be found in the old town near the Opera House.
I'm Cédric Bobinet, head chef at the Chapon Fin. I'm going to show you this traditional French Christmas recipe, a stuffed capon. I'll need a 3 to 4 kilogram bird.
A capon is a rooster that's been castrated at 12 weeks old and then fattened.
It's fed only with grain so that it puts on lots of muscles and fat. After 45 days, it gets milk in addition to the grain.
For the stuffing, Cédric Bobinet sautés shallots and garlic in butter and deglazes with white wine. Then he adds bread soaked in milk to the chopped liver of the capon and adds parsley and salt and pepper to the mixture. Once he's cut off the wings, he can begin stuffing the capon.
You have to truss it up well so the stuffing won't ooze out. That gives it a nice shape.
Now, the stuffed capon is covered in foil and roasted for 1 hour at 180 degrees Celsius. Meanwhile, head pastry chef Mehdi Al-Kadir works on the bûche de Noël. The bûche was the Yule log that guests would bring to help warm their host's house.
In France, you eat the bûche at the end of the year at Christmas and on the 1st of January. This is a Black Forest-style bûche.
The sponge cake mixture is made up of cocoa powder, flour, sugar, and eggs. First, the eggs and sugar are beaten together with a mixer. Then the sifted cocoa and flour mix is added. The mixture is poured out on a baking sheet and sprinkled with chocolate chips. The right oven temperature is crucial.
It bakes at 180 degrees Celsius for 6 minutes, no longer, or it'll be too dry.
The baked strips of cake are spread with cherry jam.
We put the mascarpone cheese into a bowl and add liquid cream and a little vanilla to even out the somewhat tart flavor. And then we add just a little sugar, not too much.
The strips of sponge cake are laid out in a mold filled with the mascarpone cream, covered with more cream, and another layer placed on top. Last comes the chocolate covering, heated to no more than 35 degrees Celsius. Back to the capon.
It's been in the oven for an hour, and now we'll peel off the foil and bake it another hour until it's golden brown.
Potatoes are browned in butter with thyme and bay leaves as a side dish for the capon. Sweet chestnuts and parsley also go in the pan.
Finally, I spoon over a little gravy to add a little color and flavor. Stuffed capon. Bon appetit and Merry Christmas.
Bonne dégustation, madame, et joyeux Noël.
You can find this recipe as well as lots of other tips for Christmas treats on our Facebook page. The Santa Run is a tradition that began in Britain some 20 years ago. The participants wear caps like this one. Every year, thousands of people compete in the races to raise money for charity. The Run in Brighton posed a new challenge for our reporter Max Merrill and made a holiday highlight for our series Quirky Customs.
Brighton, a beautiful city beside the sea just south of London. It's well worth a visit, even in winter. Just before Christmas, some fascinating characters appear on the scene. Once a year, hundreds of Santas, young and old, come to town.
Christmas in the UK is all about having a good time. After all, it's called a Merry Christmas. And one of the quirkier customs during the festive season is the Santa Run. And the most beautiful one is quite possibly held here in Brighton.
Although, I didn't feel too good after the race. But let's start at the beginning. I've been up since the crack of dawn getting ready.
Of course, today is just about taking part, really, but on my travels, I've faced a lot tougher challenges than running 5K. So today, I think I'm going to try and win it, even though I haven't really trained much, or at all for that matter, but maybe my competitors haven't as well.
A few people have actually been up and running before me. They're even doing a little warm-up race before the real deal kicks off in less than friendly conditions.
We are battling the elements. We've had conditions much worse than this. If it's raining, the suits are barely on their bodies by the time they come back.
Do you got any advice for me, maybe to try and even win it?
Even try to win it? Well, that would be fantastic.
How competitive is it? Is it more just...
I think there's always people at the front that are going to want to win it, but it's not competitive at all. We say it's a run, jog, walk. People turn up with their dogs, with their bug, pushing their children in the buggies. So it's just about having a good time.
What do you reckon then? Do you think I've got a good chance?
I think you've got a good chance. You look pretty fit.
Every participant gets a costume, one size fits all, and I'm having a tough time just getting it on, fighting a losing battle with the wind.
The struggle is real.
At least I'm not toiling alone, but most runners here aren't looking to win.
Is this your first Santa Run then?
No, we should know better.
I'm in it just to make it to the end with all my colleagues from work.
No, we're just going to go for it and see, maybe half an hour. 25 minutes, that would be a major victory.
Have you got a certain time you want to beat, or you want to be one of the monks first?
No, can you run faster than this?
Just here to have fun then. I've got my eyes on the prize, front of the queue, beardy, set, ho, ho, ho. Over 450 people are taking part. The first half of the race takes us straight into a fierce headwind. On the way back, the conditions are far better, but I find myself neck and neck with Super Mario. There's not much left in the tank by the end, but it's enough to finish 35th. Out of hundreds of runners, mind.
That was really exhausting. I'm surprised I kept it all on. And the way there was so difficult. We're facing the wind, and on the way back, it all felt a lot better. But choose somewhere to do the Santa Run where there's no wind.
No chance of that in Brighton. I didn't get a win, but 35th isn't bad considering I didn't train. Anyway, to the real victory, £3,500 were raised for the local children's hospital. Next time I visit Brighton, I hope it's a tad warmer.
You can find more quirky customs like cheese rolling on our YouTube channel. When you think of the Alps, normally images of hiking or skiing spring to mind. But when German photographer Stefan Hefele goes there, he's looking for something completely different. He is fascinated by abandoned buildings, so-called lost places. His photos cannot save them from decay, but at least he can preserve their memory.
Ruins and deserted places have always held a magical fascination for people. They make us wonder who once lived in them and what happened to them. Stefan Hefele explores places like this with his friend Felix Rüsser and looks into their histories.
Here you can clearly see the roof is caved in, the windows are broken, the plaster is crumbling from the walls. Altogether, it makes for some beautiful photos.
Built in the 1920s, it served as a summer camp. It's almost as if we can still hear the children laughing and playing who spent their summer vacations here until the late 1970s.
I want my pictures to reflect what I feel when I enter places like these. It's a little scary, and I get a queasy feeling. My heart's pounding, I get a shot of adrenaline. It's exactly this feeling I'd like to reproduce in light and shade. I want people to see that in the photos. They shouldn't be evenly lit, but rather have more atmosphere, like in landscape photography.
Hefele travels the world as a professional landscape photographer. He brings back images like this one of the Grand Canyon and the jungles of Hawaii. Many of his pictures have won awards. He's widely recognized as one of the world's leading landscape photographers. Hefele has been fascinated by abandoned houses since childhood. He's published his discoveries in a book of photos. Once splendid villas, First World War bunkers, hidden chapels, and factories where no machine has operated for decades. He doesn't say exactly where he finds the abandoned buildings, so they won't be overrun by visitors. Also, many of these buildings are in decay and hazardous, and most are hard to reach. Stefan Hefele never works alone.
It's better to go in with someone, even when I'm just photographing my landscapes. If something were to happen, if someone broke a foot or sprained an ankle, it's safer. I'm lucky that it's never happened to me, no major injuries. But it's better to have a good pal along who's able to help you.
33-year-old Stefan Hefele belongs to the generation of urban explorers who go looking for deserted and forgotten places. And all he leaves behind him are footprints. Respect for these aging sites is important to him. Finding motifs takes some effort and detective work. One of Hefele's methods is to scan satellite photos on the internet.
Here you can see the place is abandoned. It doesn't even have a roof. It can be just that simple. Or if it's harder, you can browse certain blogs on the subject. Then you can find palazzos that still have intact roofs and are still nice on the inside. There's nothing more to see here. Or you happen to pass by and find something by chance.
Stefan Hefele's photos document traces of civilization that time is gradually erasing. His works are a kind of monument to abandoned places.
"2020 will see the 250th birthday of composer Ludwig van Beethoven. And to mark the occasion, we would like you to join the celebration with your own interpretation of his composition, Für Elise, on a musical instrument of your choice. My colleagues have already had a go. As you can hear, it doesn't always have to sound perfect. You can upload your video on our website. And the most interesting entry will win a trip for two to Beethoven's birthplace, Bonn on the River Rhine, as a thank you from our team here at Euromaxx. And with that, we wish you all the very best for the holiday season and hope to see you again next time. Bye-bye.